a dollar, Frank.
The market's going against us. We're exposed on the 100 million we're holding. We're going to have to bail out.
We're going to take a whopping loss.
We can't buck the tide any longer. Let me know the damage when you've finished.
All right, got you on that. Okay, we'll see you then.
Hold the phones.
Hold on.
Okay, no arguments. Everybody cover their short currency positions. Buy yen, sterling, francs, marks. Sell dollars. We've got 100 million to dump. No haggling over prices.
$1 off.
How much?
2% against the mark in the last 20 minutes. Get started in Frankfurt.
No, I think you'll find it started about 10 blocks from here. At Borough National, as a matter of fact. They're in trouble. Bailing out of their long dollar position, dumping about 100 million on the market. Keep talking. Let me know if it slides further or hits the next big number. All right, we better go in. Long on dollars, start with Paris. And tell Borough National they can have 40 mil on Interbank. We're going to have to find someone to ride shotgun over there. I'm not taking this roller coaster again.
Earlier this week, the dollar slipped 50 points. It recovered, but there are a lot of people who say things are going to get worse before they get better. Others in the banking community say it was just a flutter. But if there's one thing all of us worry about, it's money. Our money. In this case, of course, the dollar. Here tonight to discuss the dollar is Maxwell Emery, president of the First New York Bank. Mr. Emery has sometimes been called the lion of American banking.
The dollar's been under pressure so frequently in our history. I don't think these times are exceptional. We go through regular cycles of anxiety. In fact, we're an anxiety-prone people.
But we've never had anxiety with so much reason behind it. Since 1974, when the Arabs started increasing the price of oil, they've amassed billions of dollars. Until now, they've been very kind to leave that money largely in American banks. Mr. Emery, has there ever been such a concentration of wealth in the hands of one group before?
No, I think probably not. But I assure you, their interests are ours.
Want an educated opinion? You're not going to get a glamour boy like Humblesmith to run a rescue operation over there. He won't touch it with a fork.
He might, if the payoff is big enough.
Yes, sir. Can I have a white wine and a scotch on the rocks? Well, Max, I hear you rode in on your white horse. Bailed out Borough National.
Well, that fellow down there is trying, but he's overmatched.
I sure feel sorry for the poor son of a bitch who tries to turn that mess around.
I said I'd help them, but only if they'd take my boy. Want to hear the deal?
I don't know, Max. I did my time in the trenches when I was running those problem loans for you. I had enough crash and burn.
I consider it a personal favor.
With those turkeys at Borough National, miracle would be a better word.
Now, why do you piss cold water on it when you know you're interested?
What makes you so sure?
The guy who turns them round is going to be hero of the week. And we both know that you're restless, ambitious, and a sucker for a chance at a star play.
It's the spirit that built the West.
Has either one of you seen Lee Winters?
Last time I saw her, she was over by the band. Something wrong?
Charlie Winters has been murdered. The mugger broke into his office, knifed him.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
You were inquiring about Charlie Winters the other day.
I'm sorry to have to tell you that he's dead. I was struck by the coincidence.
Charles Winters. I'm sorry to hear about that.
I'm sorry to hear about it, too.
I just wanted you to be aware. Good night.
Police have concluded that Charles Winters was murdered by a burglar who panicked when Winters, who was working late, surprised him. No other motivations for his murder have been found. At his funeral yesterday in New York, his widow, ex-film star Lee Winters, was accompanied by leading members of the corporate and financial world. And so Lee Winters, the poor girl who came out of the dirt hills of Arkansas to achieve stardom as the glamorous Ashley Norman, one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, and who at the very height of her career gave it all up to become the wife of a great American industrialist, played today her toughest role. Where to go from here? There are rumors that things are not what they once were in the troubled petrochemical empire built by Charlie Winters, now facing the critical question of who will become its next chairman. And now in a life...
For one thing, I'm not going to get the okay. And for another thing, aren't you the man that told me Winter Kim was borrowed out with the bank?
I'm the man.
Well, then where's the money supposed to come from?
Private placement. Outside source.
Direct?
Through an agent I know. We'd have to negotiate with his people. Probably be a joint venture. They put up the capital and share the profits.
Please, Miss Winters. Excuse me. I know this isn't the time or place, but did your husband ever mention Jerry Fuster? There's someone named Fuster. Did your husband ever mention anything about him?
In what connection?
You mean he didn't?
I don't know. What would it have been about?
No. If he didn't mention it, that's fine. That's fine.
What did you say the name was?
No, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry I bothered you.
Excuse me, does he work here?
You mean Mr. Fuster? He's one of the federal bank examiners who come in.
He's very nervous.
I don't believe Mr. Winters told her anything. She looked right at me. She didn't know what I was talking about. That's my train.
Well, if you hear from her again, we expect to hear from you. Okay?
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Emery. I'm sorry we're late.
Don't worry about it. So glad you're here.
Hello, Max. Got caught in traffic.
Lee, I'd like to meet Sal Naftari.
How do you do, Mr. Naftari?
Mrs. Winters, at last. I was beginning to be afraid I might not get to meet you.
For a few seconds there, I had doubts myself. But I can't tell you how happy I am that we made it.
Oh, Mrs. Winters, I was just telling Max before you came that I've just come back from Paris. The state of the dollar is a crisis. I don't know what your naughty bankers are going to do to us next. But you know that I couldn't buy a single thing. It's awful. I'm going to have to wear American clothes all summer.
2%.
Not this time.
Okay, 2.5.
8.
8? Why 8?
It's a woman. Makes it tougher. Hub. Get it out of your head. I've got a lock on this. These people are unpredictable. They make up their own minds. I'm only the agent. I can only make the introductions. The rest is up to you. My deal is too rich. You're always welcome to try it on your own.
Okay, 8.
Plus a fee of $300,000 for contingencies.
Such as?
If I knew they wouldn't be contingencies. I'll get right on it, providing, of course, it's acceptable. Also, she'll have to travel. They'll want a meeting.
We welcome you. Thank you, colleagues. We're glad to be here. My associate, Miss Winter.
How do you do?
Miss Winter, welcome, please.
Come.
I believe you know my father, Ahmed.
Of course.
He thanks you for honoring us with your visit.
Not at all. You honor us with the invitation.
And Mrs. Winters?
How do you do?
تفضلوا بسم الله.
بسم الله.
I feel like a beggar asking them for alms, and I hate it.
You and the rest of the world.
الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده.
I thought we had an appointment.
الله أكبر.
This is an appointment.
الله أكبر.
Mrs. Winters, please. Oh, good to see you. To begin with, I'm sure you will be pleased to hear that we have decided to make the loan. But first, I think it best to go over this to make sure we are clear on the main points. Point one. The sum is to be 500 million, of course. For the plant in Valencia, the money to be drawn in units of 50 million.
At times to be negotiated.
Yes, of course. Point 2, Winterchem to hold title, but profits to be shared on an equal basis. Point 3, Mrs. Winter's stock will stand as security for the entire transaction. Point 4.
Excuse me. That means if something happens, I lose all my stock.
Mrs. Winters, I think I should tell you there are those in the family who do not think we should be making this offer at all. I assume if you could have found venture capital of this sort for a company like Winterchem in America, you would not be coming all the way to Arabia looking for it. If you are able to arrange better terms elsewhere, you are free to do so. Shall I continue? Point 4. After repayment of the principal has been completed, all interest payments must be made by the 15th day of each month.
I thought you ought to see that. They just want us to hold it, not roll it over? Doesn't make sense. They'll lose a ton of interest if they don't redeposit their money. Must be a mistake. Ask them to send it again.
You got it.
By the way, how much is the deposit for?
Altogether, $95 million.
Rebecca, let's get a confirmation on that.
Better let me have the maturity schedules on those Saudi Eurodollar deposits we're holding.
The ones that are due now, or all of them?
The works.
What's going on?
19 deposits worth $5 million each are due, and the Saudis didn't give us disposition instructions. You got 23 more maturing in the next 3 weeks, which is $210 million altogether we're going to have to come up with if they decide not to roll over.
210 million, that's practically every cent we carry. That'll clean us out.
They can't just let that kind of money sit without earning interest. Even the Arabs aren't that rich. Maybe they'll advise us through their London affiliate. I hope.
Mr. Naftari returning your call.
Yeah, put them on. I got 5 minutes to kill.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. Some guys will go anywhere to find a topless beach. Hey, Sal, how's Monte Carlo, you turkey?
Not bad. Something on your mind?
No, nothing special, except your friend Dawa's here. Doesn't seem to have both his oars in the water.
What's going on?
Oh, they got a couple of Eurodollar deposits maturing. No big deal. But they're just letting them sit. You happen to know anything about it?
Nobody's talked to me. Haven't heard a word.
Well, Europe's going to start closing in a few minutes. They usually work through London and Zurich, and the interest they're losing.
Well, what about it? Oh, you got a problem?
Hey, listen, if it's okay with them, it's just fine with me. What do I care?
Then there's no problem.
Yeah, kid, talk to you. Shit.
He said you don't seem to have both of your oars in the water.
You cannot pull $95 million in one chunk from a bank the size of Borough National. When I undertook to manage this plan, you agreed to do it gradually in small amounts. You're now starting to move billions in a matter of weeks.
The world economic situation is deteriorating more rapidly than we had thought. We don't think we can afford to wait, Max.
There will be no collapse in the foreseeable future unless you panic and start it with some damn fool move like this.
And if you are wrong, what then? We wake up one morning, our oil is gone. We find that we have sold all we have in exchange for paper money that is worthless.
You're risking immediate exposure.
We risk it every day. If Charles Winters could stumble on that account, it's just a question of time before someone else finds out. And when that happens...
No one else will find out if you revert to your original timetable.
All right, Max. We'll think about it. But I'm not sure what our answer will be.
You're playing with the end of the world, you know.
The end of the world, as you know it.
Okay, let's hedge ourselves. Cover at least half the amount of the deposits for 1 day. First New York and Morgan, 24 million each.
Morgan claims they're tight today.
First New York's dry. Come back tomorrow if we have a problem. You know, this could be a real little situation here, Europe closing down. If we can't find the cash to cover those euro-dollar deposits, we're shit out of luck.
Okay, try Boston and Chase, but that's it. Let's not blow it all over the street, as long as nobody else knows. Now, what the hell is that?
Dollar's dropping.
Dropping is going through the basement, for Christ's sake. Why?
Hey, Hub, it's Paris. They heard some big Arab money is pulling out here. They're going to start shorting dollars.
They're nuts. Negative. Kill those calls to Boston and Chase.
That's what they said.
Tell them we're buying.
We're buying?
Tell them.
Dollar dropping fast against Mark.
Add sterling and guilders to that.
Okay, just button up. No more calls go out of here until I tell you. We'll issue some domestic CDs to cover the euro-dollar deposits. By the time we add up our tabs, it'll be 2 weeks from now. By then, everything will be fine. So we ran a little behind on our bookkeeping, so what?
You can't do that. That's illegal. That is criminal, for Christ's sake.
Mildly. We can get by with it for one night.
You do not know what's going to happen tomorrow.
You walk to the Fed. You let them know we're going broke, and I'll tell you what's going to happen. You won't open tomorrow. With the performance record you've had around here, they'll come in and shut our ass down for good. We just got to sweat it out and pray the Saudis roll over that 95 million before Europe opens in the morning. It's the only chance we got.
What are you going to do in the morning if the Saudis ask for that money?
I'll worry about it in the morning. I got to get through the night first.
Sorry. Euro-dollar section says the market's getting worse. Liquidity is drying up.
How much of this is around the floor?
Some, not a lot.
Okay, here's the drill. For the rest of the afternoon, no strong positions, no exposure, but keep it humming. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Hong Kong opens 8 o'clock our time. Maybe they'll run it through there.
You're asking for information that concerns something bigger than Borough National Bank. Houston, I guarantee you'll have my protection. Now, you just tell me what you know. I discovered an account 21214. Mr. Hunt, is the tape machine running? Yes. Please, sir, turn it off.
London branch. They're rolling over 90 million. Yee-haw!
think we can all go home and get some rest now?
Night, guys.
Good night. Why only 90 million? What about the other 5? You want to pay the balance of 5 to First New York, account 21214. Do me a favor, will you? Get me all our Saudi records. Look at this slippage. All over the last couple of years. Every month. 8 million, 7 million, 7 million, all to that same account number. 21214, First New York. Could be anything. An adjustment in the general portfolio or loans.
Be nice to know more about that account.
I'll worry about it later. Jesus, what a night.
No, I don't think it can wait until you come to New York. Mr. Fuster, I can come to Washington today to see you. Well, I'd like to see you today if that's possible. Hmm? Well, where would you like to meet? I can meet anywhere you want. In a parking lot? No, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Brown station wagon. What's the license number? Would 2 o'clock be all right? Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mr. Fuster. Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Fuster?
Mrs. Winters, please, get in.
Do you always meet people like this?
Oh, I don't meet people at all. Not prime customers of a bank I've just examined. I'm sorry you insisted on coming down here, Mrs. Winters, because I can't tell you anything.
I need to know what you told my husband about Borough National.
Told him nothing.
Mr. Fuster, I found the tape. Now, there's enough on that to get you in trouble, but there's not enough to help me. And I have to know. I have to know if the bank is rocky, if it's losing money.
It isn't money. It's where the money is going. And I can't talk about it.
Well, at least give me your worksheets, your notes, your...
I can't. They'd know where you got it in 5 minutes.
Look, if it's your job you're worried about, Wintercam will find you something.
You don't understand. All I knew was that Borough National was in trouble, that it had something to do with this account and some Arab euro dollars. But what I didn't know was how big this must be. How desperate they are to keep it all secret. Because when I started to follow up on it, I was told that it was a confidence factor, that 21214 was a sensitive area. And, Miss Winters, please, just leave it.
I can't leave it. I need your proof.
Your husband couldn't leave it, and look what happened to him.
Charlie, are you saying this had something to do with Charlie's death?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't be sure. But he found out and he died, didn't he? Mrs. Winters, they're all over me, and If I tell them you came to see me, what happens to you? And if I don't, what happens to me? Miss Winters, there's a Dunkin' Donuts in the Rockville Shopping Center. I'll meet you there at 4 o'clock. I'll need some time to get my notes.
Mr. Smith.
Sam, I left some papers up in Mr. Emery's office.
No problem. I'll sign you in.
Thanks. Hey, I just about given up on you.
Oh, thank God you're home.
Yeah, where you been?
Mr. Emmer there, Hub Smith calling. No, this won't keep. Can't you find him? Look, I have to talk to him. If he calls in, tell him we've got to talk about 21214.
I can't speak for the President of the United States. He runs his shop, I run mine. But I'll tell you this. Bankers are more dependable than governments. We don't lie to ourselves. We can't afford to. Isn't that right, Hub?
I'd like to think so.
We've just been joined by a most distinguished banker. About 20 years ago, he sat where you are, drinking in my words with the same skepticism that I see on some of your faces.
How do you account for the fact that for 30 years after the Depression, there hasn't been a single major bank failure? Now there's practically one every 18 months. Herstatt in Germany, Franklin National, yeah.
The international character of banking today makes everyone vulnerable to everything. Somebody sneezes in Zurich, we say Gesundheit in New York. The important thing to realize is that everything is interconnected. We're all in this together.
As a matter of fact, right now, I'm trying to keep my temper. See, after that little flutter we had at Borough National yesterday, there was one Saudi Eurodollar deposit that didn't roll over. It was transferred instead to First New York. So I went over and had a little talk with your computer about that stray $5 million. Set me up, Max. You didn't want me to save Borough National. You just wanted me to keep them afloat long enough for you to siphon off that Arab money. You've been doing it for months.
Is that a fact?
Don't dance with me, Max. You have 21214 listed as a foreign exchange account. But you don't buy other currency with those dollars, you buy gold. But you have to do it slowly because if anybody finds out what's going on, the dollar will drop and all the Saudi investments over here won't be worth shit.
You're being a little wild and woolly here, aren't you, fella? There have been some perfectly normal transactions that wouldn't raise an eyebrow anywhere.
The Borough National is just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it, Max? I checked the inflows in 21214. There are billions coming in on a regular basis from Arab and OPEC accounts you control in at least 15 other banks. You're moving the Arabs into gold. You're taking them out of the dollar.
Well, that isn't a crime. It isn't against the law. It isn't even a conspiracy. Just a routine banking operation. And if we didn't handle it, they'd find a lot of other people who would.
God damn it, Max, you don't just do this on your own. You go to the control of the currency, the Federal Reserve Board, the Secretary of the Treasury. You call the president, for Christ's sake.
And start a real panic? Have you ever seen anyone in government who could keep his mouth shut about anything for 5 minutes? Go ahead, call the Treasury. Call the controller, but if you do, I'll tell you what's going to happen. When the Arabs learn that word of what they've been doing is out, they may panic. Move a big chunk of funds too fast or the wrong way. Really destabilize the monetary markets. Then the dollar will collapse. Whereupon there'll be a lot of jawboning by the president, and that won't work. Then they'll go to selling gold, and that won't work either. Then they'll have to go to capital controls, freeze foreign assets, stop any money from going in or out, and that will be the end of all the markets. That'll really be the finish. Then you'll see a worldwide depression that'll make the 1930s look like a kindergarten. In 2 months, you'll have bread lines in Detroit, riots in Pittsburgh. In 6 months, you'll see grass right over Rodeo Drive, and Michigan Boulevard, and Fifth Avenue, and I won't have done it, Hub. You will. All because you tried to stop a movement that couldn't be stopped anyway. Listen to me, Hub. Money, capital, has a life of its own. It's a force of nature, like gravity, like the oceans. It flows where it wants to flow. This whole thing with the Arabs and gold is inevitable. We're just going with the tide. The only question is whether you want to let it go like an unguided missile and raise hell, or whether you want to keep it in the hands of responsible people. Keep it channeled, keep it quiet. Believe me, Hub, the dollar will hold. Believe me. The system will be fine, providing nobody panics. I'm looking at you, Hub.
Well, I've listened patiently to your somewhat fantastic story with one puzzling question in mind. If you wish to say something to the Arabs, say it. Why come to me?
Because you know how to get to them?
Sometimes, if they wish to be gotten to. And exactly, what is it I'm to tell them?
That I know that they're involved in a secret financial manipulation and that they want it kept secret. And so I'm prepared to trade, Mr. Naftari, my silence in exchange for winter camp.
But you have winter camp.
Our contract has to be renegotiated so that if Borough National goes under, I don't lose my company to the Saudis. My silence is the only leverage I have.
Forgive me, but silence about what? Some secret financial manipulation? You expect them to believe me if I use those words?
Just tell them 21214.
You realize, of course, that they may reject your whole story as preposterous. They may not even wish to discuss it.
I'll take my chances. And if they don't get back to me, they'll have to take theirs. There's something else they should know. Well, I've spoken to no one about this. I've taken the precaution of putting the evidence I have in a safe place.
Very well, then. I will pass it on.
Hello?
Is Mrs. Winters there?
I'm afraid she's out for the evening.
Well, then could you give her a message, please? I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Naftari. He asked me to say that he's been in touch with the other party in regards to the 21214 matter, as Mrs. Winters requested, and they suggest a meeting at 11 tomorrow.
11 tomorrow. I'll tell her. What do you know about 21214?
Enough.
Enough what?
Enough to protect myself.
Against what?
Against you. Borough National can go under. You're not taking me with it. I'm through depending on you, Hub. I went to the Saudis. I'm cutting my own deal. Sorry, partner, I guess I just lost confidence.
Do you know what you've done?
What I've done?
Yes, Emery here. What? Not possible. They couldn't. Everything that goes to them clears through me, personally.
I'm afraid the matter is out of my hands now, Mr. Emery. And whatever they're planning is out of yours, too.
It's not the children.
No. Business. Absolute nonsense.
Okay? The Arabs yanked every penny they had with us. They hit all the other outfits, too, so it's across the board. That means every bank in the country out there is going to be struggling for liquidity, trying to cover those cash withdrawals. We're dumping everything. Treasury bills, bonds, Fannie Mae's, commercial papers, we want it all sold. Fed funds, euro dollars, borrow whatever you can find up to 200 million. Foreign exchange, no positions. Bullion, grab what you can get. All right, let's hit it. And pray.
Stock market's off 75 points. The dollar's appreciated 10% and moving down. They even yanked the euro dollar deposits that weren't due. Of course, New York is practically down the tubes and gold just went over 2,000.
It began 8 days ago when a group of Arab investors withdrew billions of dollars from U.S. banks. That in turn started a chain reaction on the world money markets. Dollars, pounds, marks, francs, yen. Not one currency escaped. This scene outside a Manhattan bank was duplicated all over the world as people saw their life savings become worthless in a matter of hours. Good evening, I'm George Page in New York, and this is another in our series of reports on the world economic crisis. The growing paralysis of the industrial world has left millions without jobs, without money, and without hope. Crowds of unemployed poured into Washington yesterday. They stood in silent protest before the nation's leaders. At the same time, more than 1 million people packed St. Peter's Square, where the Pope urged calm and nonviolence. The Pontiff asked for prayers for world leaders, prayers and peace and reason. But the last 24 hours have been marked by growing protests and ever-increasing violence. Last night, demonstrators burned American currency in front of the White House, and attempts to put out the fires led to a confrontation with police. Every hour, from every corner of the globe, there are new reports of outraged crowds demanding action. A bankrupt world seems to be teetering on the very edge of anarchy.
And now for continued coverage from around the world. A statement was issued from the OPEC meeting today that the leading oil-producing nations would resume oil exports as soon as the international monetary markets have stabilized. The panic has spread across political and philosophical boundaries. The USSR and the developed Eastern European communist countries dependent on Western trade and capital have witnessed the same riots that have taken place in the West. The Economic Summit Conference tomorrow will be attended by leaders of the West, the East, and the Third World. Said one, there is a need for a unity of purpose and resolve unequaled since the end of World War II. At this time of crisis, there has been a turning to the past as well as the future. Words spoken by President Franklin D. Roosevelt in the depths of the Depression were quoted in the Senate today. This is preeminently the time to speak the truth, frankly and boldly. Nor need we shrink from honestly facing conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. We face our common difficulties. They concern, thank God, only material things. Each age is a dream that is dying, or one that is coming to birth.